Good Monday morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keep. We are hanging out this morning in our studios here in West Bloomfield, CivicCenterTV.com, 89.3 Lakes FM. Tyler, how was your weekend?
Not bad, Ronnie. It was a nice, quiet weekend.
It's the last day of summer today.
It is. It is, unfortunately.
It's been beautiful, though.
It has been.
Great football weather Friday for you?
For the most part, yeah. You know what? The game was early, which was nice. So 6 o'clock gave us a little more sunshine, a little more heat through the majority of the game. The last quarter or so was getting pretty chilly out there, being out in the elements. But overall, a really nice night on Friday.
We're gonna have to get you a heated jacket.
I was wearing one by the end, and I was doing all right. But.
Those things actually work pretty well. My husband has one. They're nice, but get you some hand warmers, some toe warmers, and it's going to be a long season.
Well, hopefully the rest of the way we'll be inside press booths and not sitting on the away stands outside in the elements. But it was a big game on Friday, so they had a lot of people in the press booth and they couldn't fit us in.
So how was it though, being there in the crowd? How many people?
It was very weird because each school gets to make the decision on who's coming in. And the MHSAA suggests 2 people per participant, so that includes the football players, the coaches, the cheerleaders, and then they may even bring in administration from both school districts and invite them. In the case of Oak Park, they made the decision that they were not going to invite any visitors for any participants. It was just going to be the 2 football teams, the 2 teams cheerleaders and coaches, and then they invited the administration from both school districts, and that's it.
Wow.
And so there were no fans from either side in the stands. There were maybe a handful of people, presumably from the print media, that were sitting in the stands on the home side. And then there was just Dave, myself, and a couple of people that worked at Oak Park High School that were sitting in the stands on our side.
Weird, huh?
It was very weird.
How is it almost like a practice then, right?
It was almost like a scrimmage.
I don't know how the professional teams are doing it.
Neither do I. I mean, it's going to be weird week to week because the teams that are used to their home system like that are going to be fine, and the away teams may be a little flustered, at least at first, by the situation, whereas West Bloomfield, having talked to Eric Pierce on Friday during the game, and Dave having interviewed him during the game, they are going to invite 2 people per participant from each team to their home games. So it'll be different at West Bloomfield this week, where you'll have 2 people per football player and presumably per cheerleader and maybe even per coach on site on the West Bloomfield side, and 2 people per participant on the Southfield A&T side as they play them on Friday night at 7 o'clock here on Lakes FM. But it's going to be different week to week. Every single team is going to have maybe a similar policy, maybe a completely different policy, and it's something you're not really going to know until you're there.
Well, I guess the lack of fans didn't really make a difference in the outcome of the Lions game. Some people were saying, hey, maybe the Lions will actually have a chance here because they don't have to deal with the rowdy Green Bay Packer fans. They still lost.
They were awful, Ronnie. I mean, they started off strong. They had a really solid first offensive drive. They had a couple of decent stops on the defensive side. They weren't getting to the quarterback, and then as the game went on, they started just tripping over their own shoelaces and forgetting how to tie them. That's what it seemed like. They were absolutely awful. I knew by the time that the Packers scored first in the third quarter that the game was over because the Lions just once again fell apart, particularly on the defensive side, which if only they had a guy coaching their team that was a so-called defensive guru. If only there were a certain defensive guru that could have led them to a better outcome.
At least so far in 2020, it's been a year of upheaval, but we have some consistency with the Lions.
Some things never change.
They still stink. So I wonder if the coach is going to have his job if they continue on.
I mean, they fired the last one when he won 9 games in a single season. I would be surprised if they didn't fire the current coach who's won 9 games over 3.
Oh, Lions. The Lions. But yet, the fans still keep coming back.
We're hopeless. We're all hopeless people.
Single year. So still a lot to get to here. We have a good show for you on the Oakland County Megacast today. We're going to be checking in with Pontiac Community Foundation, the founder over there, Dustin McClellan, see how things are going with them. We'll be speaking with an artist. Her artwork is pretty amazing. Tyler, I was checking out her Facebook page. And then Pink Daisy Hair Care, 11 o'clock. We'll be seeing how they're doing here and speak with the founder and the CEO. And then the vice chief at Beaumont Troy ER, Dr. David Donaldson, will be with us on the Megacast around 11:20. And then we'll round out the show with Kevin Lent. He's with Sola Salon Studios. He's been a part of bringing the salons back safely. So we'll check in with him. They opened back middle of June and see how the salon industry is doing. But in the meantime, over on civiccentertv.com, you can check out our headlines for the day. The flight attendants are going to be rallying outside the Senator Debbie Stabenow's office to demand action on COVID-19 relief. The union says without passage of a relief package, hundreds of thousands of airline workers across the country are in jeopardy of losing their jobs. Payroll support program that passed as part of the CARES Act was a workers' first package that protected flight attendants, pilots, airline workers throughout the country. That is set to expire here on September the 30th. Airline industry, one of the hardest hit during this pandemic. And even though the planes are back in the skies, a lot of people are still not comfortable flying.
Yeah, and understandably so. There have been many airlines that have taken this incredibly seriously and are delaying flights or turning flights back to the gate when people are refusing to put their mask on. And that's great, but there's several that haven't been maybe taking things as seriously. And flight attendants and other members of the flight crew are in direct contact with these people all day, every day. Sometimes it's 3-4 flights in a day where they're all packed full of people, and so that's a lot of interaction. And they've been doing their job all throughout this pandemic as best as is possible, whether the flights are full or whether the flights have just a few rows that are filled. They're still going to work, and taking all that risk and then still potentially losing your job would be absolutely horrible for them and for the industry too. So hopefully something fruitful comes out of this rally for that relief.
Yeah, and I haven't been on a plane yet, and I will say I don't think I would be uncomfortable flying right now, but this past weekend was the first time I was in a hotel during the pandemic, and it was weird. It's different just seeing everyone with a mask on, but I will say people are very respectful about taking turns to get in and off the elevator and only being on the elevator with your own party, and the staff taking the extra precautions, doing a lot of cleaning and this, that, and the other. So, I mean, when you are out in public, when it comes to the service industries, they are very serious about maintaining the health and the protocol procedures that have been put in place.
Yeah, they are, and they know because the customers are their business. Their interactions with people are their business, and if they aren't taking the safety of those people seriously, the people that are buying their product, that are staying at their hotels, that are buying their plane tickets, are not going to have confidence in their ability to keep them safe, and they're going to go to another competitor, or they're just simply not going to go at all. And so it's either going to be a detriment to your specific business in that industry or the industry at whole, or both. And so they know the risk, and that's why they're taking it seriously.
So also making news this morning on civiccentertv.com as a next step in its effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 within the campus community, Central Michigan University is launching a surveillance testing program. For this endeavor, the university seeks asymptomatic students, faculty, and staff on the Mount Pleasant campus to participate in pooled testing. Samples from multiple people are going to be combined before being tested for the virus. If the pooled sample returns a positive result, each individual sample is then tested separately to determine which individual or individuals are infected. Pool testing allows CMU to monitor and respond to the virus trends and to quickly screen for individuals who are asymptomatic but infected. This is an interesting approach. We have heard of other people and industries trying this out. So this is one way CMU is trying to combat the big outbreak on its college campus?
And if it's a way that you can test a large sum of people and at least narrow down the ones that are not COVID-19 positive in large groups like that, and maybe even isolate small specific groups that maybe have an outbreak inside of them, then I guess it's an effective strategy. And then from there you go to the individual person. It seems to me like the drawback would be it would delay the process of contact tracing a little bit, but if it at least clears a large group of people from being COVID-19 positive during that snapshot in time, then I guess there are positives to it.
Yeah, what's so hard about this is when you're asymptomatic and you just don't know. So it makes it hard to be able to try to figure some of these things out. Meanwhile, over at the University of Michigan, they're making a few changes on the college campus as well. The Michigan Ambassador Program at the University of Michigan has been discontinued. Instead, it's shifting to a culture of care for the fall 2020 semester. Now, the program, which featured groups of students, faculty, staff, community members, and unarmed members of U of M's Division of Public Safety and Security, was created to promote public health-informed practices and guidelines related to the pandemic. University officials say education, not law enforcement, will now be the first response to violations of public health guidelines, and the program would help remind students and community members to follow the rules. U of M also established a COVID concerns hotline for people to call to report concerns, so law enforcement is not needed as a first response. Tyler, this is coming out of the strike from some of the employees there at the University of Michigan. One of the issues that they were facing and that they brought up was the use of law enforcement, and saying maybe that shouldn't be the first line of defense here. In fact, students that even live off campus, some have also signed up and providing their address as well, so that if there is something to happen, then they will respond to them without force, without that law enforcement presence.
Yeah, and you have to find that healthy balance, because there is, of course, a need to enforce the law and to keep the public safe. And in some cases, that does require some use of force. However, that, like this article is saying, like this program is saying, it shouldn't be the first option. There should always be a more peaceful option and a more productive option. And I think that's what U of M is going for with this. We'll see if it works out.
You'll find the headlines and more, including links to resources over at civiccentertv.com. Just click on the resources. We have a link to the CDC as well as the state of Michigan. State of Michigan updating its page related to coronavirus each and every day as well. So make it easy for yourself. Just head over to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and there you'll find links to all the resources that you need to help yourself navigate this pandemic. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to check in with Dustin McClellan. He is the founder and CEO of the Pontiac Community Foundation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keith here in our studios. and the greater West Bloomfield area. Right now, we want to go ahead and bring in Dustin McClellan. He is our first guest here with us on the Megacast, founder and CEO of the Pontiac Community Foundation. Dustin, thank you for joining us today on the Megacast.
Hi, good morning, Ronnie and Tyler. Hope you're doing well today.
So for those that aren't aware of what the Pontiac Community Foundation does, can you fill us in?
Yeah, so the Pontiac Community Foundation is all about building a brighter future for the people of Pontiac. We do that through a variety of wide-ranging initiatives in the areas of philanthropy, leadership, and collaboration in the city of greater Pontiac area.
Dustin McClellan joined us. He is from the Pontiac Community Foundation, their founder and CEO. So recently you've put some new efforts in place on that are on point with that goal. One of those being you're launching a new Entrepreneurship Center. Can you explain to us what that is going to be all about?
Yeah, so obviously we've been navigating the COVID-19 pandemic and seeing what the long-term or even short-term issues will be in our community. And so supporting small businesses, in particular budding entrepreneurs, those that may need to get some additional education, assistance, help formalize their business, tips and tools to get their business off the ground. We felt it necessary to start a program that would assist Pontiac entrepreneurs. And so it's called the Center for Pontiac Entrepreneurship, with several particular facets, helping entrepreneurs learn, connecting them with mentors, giving them access to capital and funding, and then the ability to network with other small business owners that may be starting their business or new to business.
Have you found that there is a higher interest in people starting their own businesses during the pandemic or coming out of the pandemic, maybe because they lost their other job?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of uncertainty all around, right, in the midst of a crisis like this. However, people want some type of control over their circumstances and over their income. And so I'm seeing a lot of people that either want to have their own business that they can give their all to, or want an additional stream of income should we have further uncertainty or loss of wage. They've got a little more control over their situation. So we're seeing a lot of people that want to legitimize maybe a hobby or something they're passionate about or a need they've seen in the community around them and turn that into a successful business.
So, Dustin, I have to tell you, I'm passionate about Pontiac. I live down the street in Kego, and I feel like Pontiac is this gym that just seems like it can't make that first step to get past the stigma of the city that it used to be. How do you get it? Like, you're taking on a pretty big task here. What do you want people to know about Pontiac if they haven't been there in quite some time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm so glad you have the same thought process that we do. That's really why our organization was started. Just 2 years ago, we started the Pontiac Community Foundation because we felt like Pontiac was this forgotten city in the midst of incredible wealth in Oakland County, wonderful cities on either sides of us. Also some challenging cities on our sides in Detroit and Flint, and a lot of investment, a lot of intention gone into Detroit and Flint, but Pontiac being overlooked. And so we said, hey, we want to draw attention to those that may want to do business in Pontiac, may want major funders that may want to make investments into Pontiac. And I think people need to know that even in the midst of the pandemic, Pontiac is open for business. We've got a wonderful downtown, wonderful restaurants, wonderful entertainment venues. It is a great city to live in and to raise your family in and to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that the restaurant scene hasn't taken off a little bit more than what it has there in Pontiac, because so many people from our area are doing that. They're driving downtown to go to some of these restaurants. And it's like, wait, Pontiac is right here. What can be done to try to market the city?
Yeah, I think that, to your point, a lot of the stigma around Pontiac in terms of safety. That needs to be abolished. And the reality is Pontiac, the downtown area, is one of the safest downtowns. I've heard our Oakland County Sheriff say that many times in all of Oakland County. And so in terms of navigating the Woodward Loop and coming into downtown, beyond the Dream Cruise, it's a great place to be and a great place to hang out. And even beyond just, having a drink or getting a meal, there's a ton of diversity in our city. People from all walks of life, all nationalities, all persuasions saying, you know what, this is a cool melting pot that we get to be a part of and experience life in.
We have United Shore is there now,
Yes.
and it's growing like crazy. Amazon's coming in, plus the M1 Concourse. That is such a cool and unique event and location and place that is uniquely Pontiac. So how do you build on that to keep that momentum going?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're excited about all of the industry that's coming in Pontiac, some of the larger developments and businesses that are making their home here. And I think that we as a community, I'm going to speak a little internally, we've got to continue to come together and have those strategic plans and visions that can go to the outside world where they can see that we're working together to carve out this plan in terms of economic development and community development. But I think people also need to pay attention to what's happening in Pontiac and that the world is coming here. And, the next step is for those around us in Oakland County and in the metro area to say, man, if United Shore is coming here, if Williams International, building things for our aerospace and defense contracts, et cetera, if the world is literally coming here, then maybe we should come and check out Pontiac as well.
And part of that, Dustin, does tie back into the Entrepreneurship Center that is going up in Pontiac through your foundation. That includes over $100,000 in grant funding as well. What would some of that money go to help these businesses and these business people that are trying to grow their businesses in the city of Pontiac?
Yeah, so we are building out this entire program and obviously hiring infrastructure staff and all of that to lead and run this, but also providing that real technical assistance and some resource hands-on tools for entrepreneurs, but also funding. A large part of that will go to funding, and we actually are just completing the first round of funding we have for small businesses in Pontiac. We're actually going through the review process too to see who will get those funds. And so we've got the funding available now. The virtual courses just started this weekend. There'll be another course starting Wednesday. And so lots of resources and tools. And what's really cool about Pontiac right now is there's a group of 8 major funders that we call them major funders in the nonprofit space. And they've said, you know what, we funded in other areas. We want to make a strategic investment in the city of Pontiac. And so they pulled a group of Pontiac stakeholders together and said, what are those areas that need investment? And entrepreneurship was one of those spaces. And so as they're kind of bringing us through a collaborative process of identifying these different areas in Pontiac that need funding, they've said, let's jumpstart one of those areas. Let's do it through the Pontiac Community Foundation. And that's where the Balmer Group came to us and said, we want to support you guys in your continued infrastructure that's needed to support the city of Pontiac.
Such great things going on. Dustin McClellan with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the founder and CEO, Pontiac Community Foundation. What are some of the other areas that could be developed coming down the pipeline? I know you said the entrepreneurship is the first one. What could be in the back pipeline there?
Yeah, another one we're giving a lot of attention to and space to is our public spaces in the city of Pontiac. Trails and walkways and our city parks, our pocket parks in downtown. A city like Pontiac, having gone through receivership in recent years and and finally getting our municipality back in line. It can be a challenge to give dollars to those areas, but we all know that those are the areas that make a thriving city a wonderful place to live, that welcome families and individuals. And so we're putting dollars into our parks right now. We've got a few developments happening right now, and we hope to continue to do that over the course of time, and to target particular public spaces around the city that will help continue to make this a vibrant place to live.
I know you and members of your group have studied a lot about urban planning and what needs to happen in the city of Pontiac. I'd like to get your 2 cents on what you think would be the best use of the Phoenix Center. It is right in the heart of Pontiac, and I feel like whatever comes out of that is really going to shape the future of the city.
Yeah, the Phoenix Center Plaza and any discussion around that has been a sticky situation for many years. So the Phoenix Plaza, let's include in that discussion the Woodward Loop and whether or not that's a good thing for the downtown. And then Saginaw, that is being cut off by the Phoenix Center Plaza right now. These 3 issues have been discussed ad nauseum in our community, and they will continue to be discussed until some end comes to them. In my opinion, I feel like the best use of the Phoenix Center and the adjacent properties there would be for an outside investor to come and kind of take ownership of that, whether that's through a public-private partnership, whether that is an exclusive purchase of that property. Because the reality is that a city like Pontiac, again, coming through receivership and other challenges historically, we've never really been able to put really the meat on the bone to make that a successful venue, entertainment venue, shopping district, do other developments on that property that were in the original plan for downtown Pontiac. And so without that public-private partnership, it'll never be a Campus Martius-like development, right? It was successful public partnerships that really put Detroit back on the map in terms of downtown. And so that's what I would love to see. I think we're poised for it here in our city. I think there are incredible entities around this area that could say, hey, we'll take a chance on Pontiac, we'll take a chance on downtown, we'll take a chance on this development and move it beyond where it is now and to where it needs to be.
Dustin McClellan with us. He is the founder and CEO of the Pontiac Community Foundation, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Dustin, just a few more minutes with you before we have to let you go today. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss about the city of Pontiac, about the business community, about other projects that are in the works, or anything that we didn't discuss already today?
Yeah, number one, I want to thank you guys for having me and for taking this time and allowing us to have a broader discussion about Pontiac. I want folks out there to know that Pontiac's open for business. And so in the midst of this pandemic and this 2020 year, folks are looking for a place to do business, a place to move their business. I've talked to 3 or 4 individuals last week that were saying, we're thinking strategically about where we want to place our business, and we'd like to come to Pontiac. Can we talk with you? Yes, our doors are open. And so we want you to come here, do business here, be a part of the fabric of the community, and get a hold of me. I'd love to help you in any way that I can to continue to move Pontiac forward and have you here.
So, Dustin, some people and some businesses are actually being priced out of investing in parts of Detroit now. And I know one of the issues before, it was harder for businesses and people to get grants if you were in Pontiac versus Detroit, because you needed that Detroit address for the grant. So do you think now Pontiac is becoming more attractive because the price of doing business in Detroit is going up?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think not only the affordability of property here, but also the cost of living for employees in our downtown environment is attractive. And then our city has done a great job of working with developers on not giving away things, but making it easier for them to make a development happen with various incentives that the city may have to offer. So I think we're primed for those type of developments. And as I mentioned, we've got 8 major funders who've said we're making strategic investments in Pontiac. So the grant dollars are here, and the time is now.
Pontiac is the place to be. It's going to be the new up-and-coming old city, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Dustin, thank you so much for being with us on the Megacast. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you guys so much. Sure appreciate the time.
Dustin McClellan with us. He is the founder and CEO at the Pontiac Community Foundation. If you are even considering looking into moving your business, a lot of businesses are realigning. Maybe their leases are coming up and they don't need the space they once needed, or they don't want that high rent. Consider Pontiac. Move into Pontiac. Check them out. The Pontiac Community Foundation doing great work there, just to our north here, Tyler.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic work over there. They're helping out businesses that have been either struggling during the pandemic or trying to find their footing and help bring the city back, and that's all great work.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be speaking with a local artist on some of her work and what this has been like during the pandemic.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
Or blue. But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe here in the Civic Center TV studios in West Bloomfield. You can always catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast and Channel 99 on AT&T if you still do have cable. And if you do, we appreciate it because that's how we get our funding. We don't want cable to go away. A lot of people getting creative during this pandemic. They found a little bit of extra time on their hands. And so what is it like to be an artist during this time? Let's bring in Chelsea Hensbergen. She is an artist here in the local area. Chelsea, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was on your website earlier. Your artwork is amazing, very big, bold, and colorful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
How did you get started? And you have a very distinct look. Do you try to stay within that look, or do you sometimes change things up?
You know what? I do know the look that you're talking about. I have a lot of organic patterns and kind of swirls. I think I try to stay true to that look because it feels the most natural to me, but I'm not opposed to branching outside of it, or I like to do things that kind of push me out of my comfort zones.
Working outside on some of the outside murals, I would imagine, brings some of its own challenges. Do you prefer working outside or inside?
I prefer working inside just because you're able to control, temperature. You don't have to worry about sun, rain, and anything happening with your supplies, and you can work any hour of the night. But working outside it brings more to the piece, I believe, because you're able to be outside in nature and really connect with the mood of the piece.
How'd you get started in doing murals to begin with?
Honestly, this wall behind me was one that I painted in my living room and, post a picture on Facebook. And from that, people just started messaging me. I got this Alice in Wonderland project last September. It was a year from today, actually, that I completed it. And every time I post photos of my work, I'll get one or two more jobs. Everybody they tend to like the style that I present, and they want to be a part of it.
See, the magic of social media is,
yeah.
and how important has that been for you to keep the work coming? And as you said, you do go into people's homes. Did you have to take a break from that for a while?
No, I've just been producing consistently for the last year now. I'm just entering my second year of creating art professionally. So no breaks, and entering people's homes, it's fun to be in a different space and really connect with their personality and create something for them specifically.
Chelsea Hensbergen with us. She is an artist, and you're participating in a mural tour in downtown Rochester. Can you tell us a little bit about what that project is and maybe how you got involved with that?
So I had actually heard about the contest when Monica Drake with the Oakland Press wrote an article about it, and she used one of my photos from a previous project to highlight it and spread the word within the community. So I was excited to see my photo in the paper, but also to hear about the contest and a new opportunity. So that's how I heard about it, and I felt that I definitely have to enter now.
Yeah, that's a little bit of pressure for you. For people such as myself, I'm lucky to be able to draw a stick figure. Where does your creativity come from, and how do you approach a new project? Does it grow as you're painting it, or do you have it pretty much mapped out prior to starting?
A little bit of both. I think, first of all, creativity presents itself in so many different forms. But when it comes to creating a piece, I'll think about it for a while, let those ideas kind of fester. And I might do, a quick little 5-minute ballpoint sketch, maybe kind of get a feel for where I want the layout of the piece to be. And then for everything, I'll collect 15 to 20 different photos for inspiration and reference. I don't like to copy one thing exactly, but really pull from different elements. So then once I have a canvas, a wall, a board, whatever I'm painting on, I'll just do a quick little paint outline of where I'd like specific shapes to be. And I really do feel like it comes through as you work on it.
So with this contest, do you know how many people are actually trying to get in on it, and what do you win at the end?
The winner gets a $500 cash prize for a judge's choice contest, and the winner will be announced today, I believe. And there were 14 finalists. There's 14 different boards competing for the cash prize. I'm not sure how many people entered before that.
Chelsea Hensbergen with us. She is an artist participating in the magical mural tour in downtown Rochester. You can see those pieces. They'll be available until about September 31st. It's working in conjunction with over 20 restaurants and hosting the Taste of Fall from now until October 19th. So in that contest, are you assigned to a specific business, a specific restaurant, a specific place, or is that a partnership between you and some other person or company in the city?
We submitted our concepts and our designs, and then the 14 boards that are painted right now, those are the ones that were chosen from those concepts. Once we painted the boards, we turned them into the Rochester Downtown Collaboration Studio, and then they put them up around the city. So I didn't choose where my business was, but I'm glad I got the meeting house because it's one of my favorite places downtown.
That makes it easier, right?
Yeah, and easier to remember.
So you said that you recently started being an artist professionally full time. What did you do before, and what advice would you give to another person who is looking at maybe breaking away from their 9 to 5 and taking a chance on themselves?
That is exactly what I just did. I was working various 9-to-5 jobs. I'm also a massage therapist. I really kind of follow where my heart leads, and that would be the advice that I'd have to share as well. You know, everybody's creative in some form. All you have to do is just get started. The first thing you do is going to suck. You know, every time I paint, always the first layer I'm unhappy with it, or there's some part that I don't like, but you just got to keep going, keep trying, you know, layer the colors, give it a go. Just start.
So how was it for you? You were starting out and then we go into a pandemic. Did you freak out a little bit? Were you worried about how you were going to keep going?
You know what? The pandemic was actually what allowed me to have the time to pursue art. A lot of the jobs that I did were outside during the quarantine period. You know, for the first month or two, I isolated just like everyone else, but then I realized it was an opportunity to pursue those goals and my passion. So during the pandemic, it was really a blessing for me.
Always a silver lining if we take the time to try to find it. Some of your work is public. If people want to see it, where can they find it?
So currently, you know, I do have the piece in the Rochester Mural Tour. That's outside of the Meeting House on Main Street and 3rd. There's a public wall available on Voyage Martial Arts in St. Clair Shores. That is at 12 and Harper. It's a big graffiti wall, so we painted it to be a photo opportunity. If you wanted to take a picture and look like you're pulling the curtain open, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. It is so cool. We're seeing, it's kind of making the rounds on Facebook, some of those really creative murals that are happening, especially in the inner city with so many of the abandoned buildings and how they're using art to beautify them.
Yes.
I do have to ask, just because I've done so many stories about with the artists and the graffiti in Detroit, I know that your work is commissioned work, but it does kind of have that feeling, some of it, about the graffiti. What is your thoughts on some of the artists that are using the abandoned buildings as their wall of creativity?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a great tool. If nothing's being done with it, why not use it as a canvas? Whenever people are ready to renovate it, then they can keep it, you know, paint over it, as long as you're not causing harm to others or, you know, breaking and entering or, you know, doing anything that you're not supposed to, then why not create where you can?
What is it like to be able to face a wall that's massive? How do you get up high enough to be able to reach some of those spots and to keep it a consistent look?
I haven't had to do anything that required any sort of scaffolding or cranes, anything like that yet. The tallest piece that I've had to work on so far, all I needed was a ladder. So I've been, you know, lucky enough I didn't have to figure that out. I know that other artists will use projectors. Sometimes they'll do different grids where they'll take a photo of the wall, put a grid in Photoshop, overlay their image, and then paint a grid on the wall. But for me personally, I kind of freehand everything. I think that's what adds to my signature look, is that it's not planned out. It just kind of grows.
What's your favorite piece of art that you've done?
Oh, I would have to say the Alice in Wonderland piece, just because it was the first one that I did professionally. It was really where my style developed. They just wanted something that was inspired by Alice in Wonderland. They had no expectations, no rules to follow. All I had was a theme and then just to roll with it. And I spent so much time and love on it that it feels like my first child in a way.
Chelsea Hensbergen with us. She is an artist joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. You'll see some of her murals all around the place, including in downtown Rochester right now. Their magical mural tour continuing until about September 31st. So, Chelsea, when you're going into making these pieces, whether it be you're given a theme or you're not given a theme or you're just given an open canvas and told paint something, what inspires your art?
Definitely themes of nature. I love plants, obviously, and I just, I like to layer colors and have a lot of contrast. So I guess the themes of nature itself, you know, when you look at a sunflower, they have a bright yellow exterior and then this dark, seedy center, different textures, different shapes, different colors. I don't really have an umbrella term for it, but I'm just a very visual person. So I guess I like to try and cram as much color and texture as I can.
I have to wonder, how do you, when you're doing outside artwork, is there something that you use to try to protect it from the elements so that it does last longer?
Yes. So I always prime it first with an exterior grade primer. Then I'll go in with the color. Once the color is complete, I seal it with a polyurethane, and that ensures that the color will be protected both from, you know, the sun, UV rays. It'll be protected from rain, snow, the elements, and also it won't yellow over time. So it'll keep those colors looking vibrant and sharp as the day they were presented.
Chelsea Hensbergen with us. She's an artist. Earth and Ether is your website, earthandetherart.org. Anything that you want people to know? I mean, what was the biggest lesson you think you've learned during this time, branching out during the pandemic? I know you said it offered you certain opportunities, but what else have you learned about this time and just trying to survive during COVID?
With art itself, it's really taught me the importance of connection. I've always considered myself very introverted and almost hermity. You know, I kind of like to keep to myself, but I've had a couple pieces, the Voyage martial art one included, where people collaborated with me, and working with other people to create something so beautiful and fun and laugh together has just been such a joy. You know, I would love to do more pieces where I can collaborate with people, or like you, who said that you can only draw a stick figure, you know, just to show you that you're more artistic and capable than you think.
I know that when the pandemic first started, it came popular to do like those color by numbers or the paint by numbers that we had back when you were like 2 years old.
Yes.
Could something like that really help people get better if they do want to pick up artistic skills?
Absolutely. You know, anything that you're doing is better than anything you're not. So if it's a paint by number, maybe it's pottery or playing with Sculpey clay or Play-Doh, you know, printing out somebody's picture that you admire and tracing it just to kind of get a feel for the lines and the style. Really, anything that you try is going to be better than not trying at all.
So do you have one person in your life that was an inspiration for you, that helped you along your path?
In my life, I'm very fortunate to have, you know, a good support network of my friends and family always pushing me, you know, and they would tell me I'm talented, I can do it, you know, all these things that I'm telling other people now. They would always encourage me to pursue those passions. As far as an inspiration, I would say Van Gogh. We both struggle with bipolar disorder, different times, of course. So he had less resources, less knowledge about, you know, the things that plagued his mind, but he was able to express himself in that creative form. So I'm very inspired by his work and how he's able to pull those emotions and turn them into something beautiful.
That's a great story, just to remind people that we all have struggles, but to find those struggles to help lead you in your inspiration. I found myself recently, an old Bob Ross episode came across the air the other day. You know, he was amazing how he could like, oh, let's just paint a little tree here or there.
Yes.
You know, it was
so therapeutic.
Yeah, and watching someone like him, it makes it look so easy, but it's not easy.
I mean, yes and no. I agree and I disagree. It's not easy when you look at the finished piece, because then you think, oh, I couldn't possibly create that. You know, I don't even know where to start. But like Bob Ross, he breaks it down to step by step. You know, when you're so close to a piece, like when I'm working on a mural and I'm working on these details And I'm like, oh man, this sucks. It doesn't look like anything. But then you step away, it looks a lot better than you think. So I do think it's easier than you think.
One of his quotes, "We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents."
Yes.
So just a couple more minutes here with you. Anything that you want people to know? Any advice or anything even just about how to get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me at my website, which is earthandetherart.org. I also have a Facebook page. My personal Facebook is Chelsea Hensbergen. Feel free to add me there as well. In terms of what I'd like people to know, I would love to get involved with more public collaborations or paint something large scale that requires scaffolding or a projector on a side of a building. But really, I would love to just get involved with more projects. So any ideas that you have, send them my way.
Would you be open to working with other artists as well?
100%. Mm-hmm.
Chelsea with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday, this last day of summer, to be with us on the Oakland County Megacast, and we invite everyone to check out your work. You're very talented. It's very beautiful, bright, eye-catching artwork. Best of luck with you in the future.
Thank you so much for the compliments and for having me on the show.
Chelsea with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll check in with the founder and CEO of the Pink Daisy Hair Care. How did she get started on her journey through in life and with her business? This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the medical director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dull alongside Tyler Keefe in our 89.3 Lakes FM studio here in West Bloomfield. Last day of summer here, Tyler, and we've had some beautiful weather.
Yeah, it's been a really nice summer, Ronnie, and hopefully it'll be a nice fall also.
And hopefully it means that eventually we'll be moving out of the pandemic. One could only hope. Hopefully. But while we have been in it, people have had to manage their lives, and that includes businesses. We want to go ahead and let's bring in Dayja Foster. She's the founder and CEO of the Pink Daisy Hair Care. She joins us on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your business.
Okay, so my business was birthed about 5 years ago. I got a kidney transplant and all of my hair fell out. And I was sad and distraught. So I looked up a lot of ingredients on the internet. I was trying to make a hair oil so my hair could grow back. I made the oil and my hair, it just grew automatically, like overnight, almost. And people say, you should sell it, you should sell it. And I've always been in school. I'm a full-time college student. And I'm like, no, I don't have time to make it. I don't have time. But coronavirus gave me the time that I needed with all of the stay-at-home orders. And I created my business in May of 2020. And it's been very successful.
Wow, what an amazing story. And that for you, the coronavirus time has actually been a blessing to be able to get this up and running. I like how you said, I birthed my business.
Thank you. I did. Blood, sweat, and tears.
So for someone who is maybe listening and they think they want to follow your path, what advice would you give them?
Just do it. It'll never seem like the right time, but any time is better than not doing it at all. So even if you have to do it scared and afraid, do it, because the outcome far outweighs the fears that you have. Oh my God.
Dayja Foster with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. How is it going right now as far as your business? Is it taking off, do you think?
It's taking off, and I'm a full-time student at Oakland University, so I'm very busy. I have like 4 jobs.
You need like 2 or 3 of you, right?
Yes.
So
I need to hire an assistant soon.
There you go. See, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So, Dayja, for women, our hair is everything, and so much of our identity is connected to our hair. Mm-hmm. For you to go through what you went through, how important is it for you to be able to have this product?
It's so important because when I went through what I went through, like all of my medicines that took my hair out, I still couldn't use certain products. So I made sure I used all natural products that wouldn't be irritating to the skin. I just had that in mind. So everyone could use it, even with allergies, even if you're having a certain type of treatment that makes your skin sensitive. I made my product for everyone, with everyone in mind.
So I would imagine it was a lot of trial and error to get to the finished product. One thing with hair growth, it doesn't happen overnight. So how were you able to test it, and what length of time did you put in between coming up with a new concoction?
Persistence. I don't know. Like I said, I've been growing my hair for 5 years, and you just, as time goes on, you see what works and doesn't work. So about every 2 months, I will add something or take something out of my oils when needed.
So you probably wouldn't have come up with this had you not gone through your kidney transplant. How is your health today?
My health is perfect. I've had my transplant for almost 5 years in November, and I have never felt better.
What are you studying? It is a blessing. When we have our health, it is such a blessing. And what are you studying in college?
I'm currently a communication major. I'm graduate in May, but I plan on going to Wayne State Law School next fall 2021.
Dayja Foster with us. She is the founder and CEO of Pink Daisy Hair Care, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Dayja, what an amazing story you have of how you came to develop this business. Now that your business is in full motion and has been running, you said, since about May in its regular form during this pandemic, what now inspires you going forward to continue to run this business? What inspires you each and every day to continue to provide these products to people in our community and beyond?
Just my customers, they inspire me because I have so many great reviews. And just to think, like, if I wouldn't have sold my product, all these people wouldn't have been able to be helped. So just my customers. My dreams inspire me. I need to pay for law school, so hopefully my hair care line can help with that.
We hope so as well, because law school is not cheap at all. So tell us a little bit. I know you talked about the hair oil, but can you use it on other parts of your body? Because I know sometimes the oil can be used like on your cuticles or something of that nature.
Yeah, so it's for hair, skin, and nails. I have a bottle here for you. It's for hair, skin, and nails. Everybody says, "Ooh, it smells so good." I just rubbed it all over my body. And that's totally fine. It helps my skin stay soft as well. And my nails grow.
When it came to actually putting this together, it was trial and error. What did you learn about the oil industry that is the secret to this?
I don't know. It's a lot about, like, it's so many oils out there. You just have to do your research and follow your heart, because you can get lost in the sauce with all the oils. But I just found the key oils that helps hair growth, and it has helped so far.
Well, your hair is absolutely beautiful. I will say that.
Thank you.
And can anyone use this product?
Yes, anyone can use it. I have a lot of children that use it. Men and women can use it, so everyone can use it.
Tell us a little bit. You're about to graduate. You started this. Where did you get the money to start it, and how much did it take? And then what do you think the future of your company is going to be?
Well, thanks to my mom. She gave me like $500, and I took that $500 and I got my LLC registered and bought some like a couple of supplies that $500 could buy, and it worked out. Like when I first started selling, I sold out almost the same day. So as I make money, I spend it on my products and the supplies that I need. But it's actually, I'm starting to see a profit now. So that's a good thing. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. That is so awesome. That is so awesome that she believed in you. How do you actually make the product, and where do you get your supplies?
I get my supplies from a wholesaler, but I make them myself. So they're all homemade, mixed together. I make them at my home.
So I'm kind of imagining you in the kitchen whipping up a batch of your oil. Now
Yes.
that you have a formula, do you have different variations, or is it just one type of oil?
I have several types of oil on my website. I have different types of hair growth oils, skin oils. I have extra strength. Sorry, of course they decided to cut the grass today. But I have all of the oil pretty much is extra strength. I have aloe vera oil for the skin. So I do have different formulas in different types of oil.
Dayja Foster with us. She is the founder and CEO of Pink Daisy Hair Care, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. In terms of the future of your business, Dayja, any plans for further expansion, maybe making some more products beyond the current oils that you're making, or expanding into other forms of hair care in the future?
Well, yes, I actually have my shampoo and conditioner line coming out very soon. I'm going to kick that off for Black Friday. I plan to expand until I can't expand anymore. So hopefully this is my multi-million-dollar idea in business. I also have brushes, so you can check that out on my website as well.
Dayja Foster on the Oakland County Megacast. You're listening to us on 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And since we still have you on the Megacast with us, Dayja, you said that you're an Oakland University student. You're going to be graduating. What's it like for you to be a student right now? Do you have any in-person classes, or are all of your classes remote right now?
I actually have in-person classes, and then most of them are remote. I do have, like I said, one class on in person, but we only meet 5 times a semester. And I'm an RA. I actually live on campus, and it's different, but I think we're doing pretty well here.
So you're living on campus right now?
Yes.
And you're an RA. Where are you creating your oils then? In your dorm room?
No, I keep them at home. It would be a lot of oil everywhere. But I have, of course, I have like stock with me, but no, I make it at home in my grandmother's basement where she has a lot of room and a lot of space where I can put oil everywhere. It's messy.
You know what, Tyler, we should probably hook her up with our first guest, Dustin, talking about entrepreneurship and the program that they have coming up over there in Pontiac. Maybe we'll have to connect you guys together there. Just a few more minutes with you here on the Oakland County Megacast. You have such an amazing and inspiring story. Give some advice to other college kids who are sitting where you're sitting. People come up with what they think is a great idea, but it just sits there because they never get past that first step. How did you get past that first step?
I don't know. Like I said, I've been sitting on my idea for years. It just takes one step, one leap of faith, and everything you ever imagine, even if it starts off slow, just being persistent and just knowing that you have a good product. If you're the only one that believes in your product, that's okay. Because if you believe, you can sell it. So just take a leap of faith and just do it.
You said you started the LLC. What is that process?
So you have to file the articles with Michigan. It's only $50 here in Michigan. So it was a fairly easy process. Just make sure you have someone like a licensed professional help you, just to make sure you have all of your information that you need for your company and the correct information in the correct forms and documents.
So did you start that during the lockdown, or was this prior?
It was a little prior, like a little bit prior to the lockdown. So around like the beginning of March, like a couple of days before the lockdown, actually.
Okay, go ahead and share with everyone if they're interested in your products or learning more about what you're offering. Where can they find you?
Okay, so you can find Pink Daisy Hair Care at www.pinkdaisyhaircare.com. You can find us on Instagram at Pink Daisy Hair Care. And you can also find us on Facebook. It's just called Pink Daisy right now.
Do you have anyone helping you with this right now? Is your mom packaging up some of your products, or your grandmother?
They help me when I need help, but I've been packaging everything, making all of my own labels. Here's our aloe vera oil. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's great. That's so great.
Yeah, so I make everything. I pretty much do it, but my family helps, so thank you, family.
How do you think your degree is going to help you?
I've done like a lot of outreach work. I love to speak publicly, so I just think the skills that I've gained with that, it'll help me connect with the public and my customers.
That's awesome. Dayja Foster with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the founder and CEO, Pink Daisy Hair Care. She created her company after she went through a kidney transplant, lost her hair, and was trying to make her hair grow again. What an inspiring story. We wish you the best of luck. You have such a bright future ahead of you. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. You can catch us each and every day on CivicCenterTV.com and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, or on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM, The Biff.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Thank you for tuning into the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. You can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Catch us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM, The Biff. 10 a.m. to noon, we work to bring you interesting and informative long-form interviews with people throughout Michigan, Oakland County, related to COVID-19. Our next guest, Kevin Lent. He is a franchisees and Sola Salon Studios and spokesperson, Safe Salons of Michigan Coalition. Salons reopened July 15th, and I will tell you, I was a happy camper that day. Kevin, how are you?
I'm good, Ronnie. How are you this morning?
There were a lot of bad hairdos going on during the shutdown.
I'm not throwing stones at anyone. I'm still wearing a hat. But I think I just have bad hair, period.
You know, for women, we've always had a very strong relationship and powerful relationship with our stylists and our hairdressers. But I think for the first time, men really got to understand how important it is to have that connection.
Oh, I agree. I mean, we have a couple of our professionals in a few of my locations that are barbers that strictly do male cuts. And they were as busy, if not busier some days, than the stylists that typically just take care of female clientele.
So let's talk a little bit about business. The salons were allowed to reopen. Was it July 15th or June 15th?
Yeah, I think it was.
July 15th. Okay, I'm sorry. I was in Ohio.
No. It wasn't July 15th. It was June.
June 15th.
Yeah.
So you've been back open. How are things going? Because we're not really hearing about big outbreaks at hair salons, which was the concern in the beginning.
Yeah, it was a concern. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say state by state, it varies in how great a concern that is. When you look at the protocols and the sanitation protocols and, safety protocols for licensed cosmetologists in the state of Michigan, they are some of the most stringent requirements and protocols in the industry across the country. So we were always confident that, if they practiced what they learned, stylists, and barbers, if they put into practice what they learned in cosmetology school and getting licensed, that they would not be a source of spread for this virus whatsoever. And it certainly seems that that's happening for the most part. I can't say it's happening everywhere, but it's happening for the most part. Good compliance with the guidelines.
How important do you think it has been for the industry that the governor had a dialogue with people such as yourself when it came to reopening?
Oh, extremely important. The one thing that it really struck me and it really hit home going through this shutdown with the salon professionals that have their homes at Sola, one of my locations in Michigan, or just other salon owners and independent chair renters throughout the state. What really struck me is that they really don't have a voice. They're a very big industry. I can't quote off the top of my head how many licensed cosmetologists now there are in Michigan, but I think it's around 10,000. How many are active and how many are dormant, I'm not sure. But that's a big group, and it's also a group of people that tend to be more affected by things like a shutdown. There tend to be a lot of single moms, a lot of minorities working in this profession, and that was really painful for a lot of families. And sometimes, even if they're not from a single person home, they're the primary breadwinner.
Kevin Lent joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's a franchisee at Sola Salon Studios and one of the spokespersons for Safe Salons of Michigan Coalition, joining us today on the show. And there was such an outcry by the industry prior to the reopening of the industry by the governor's office. There were protocols that were devised by your group and sent to the governor. There were conversations back and forth about whether it should be opened, whether it shouldn't be. And yours and other industries across the state since, of course, have been allowed to reopen, but some are still shut down. Do you have any advice for those business sectors in trying to communicate with the state and put together plans that they can communicate for how they would reopen safely?
Yeah, that's really hard for me to speak to. I think it's, I hate to see it. I hate to see, because I know every single business owner, whether they're a small independent business owner like myself, or whether they're a large conglomerate like some of the movie theater chains or some of the health and exercise gym chains, I think that every single one of us is well-intentioned. We're not looking for ways to skirt this. The worst thing that could happen to me or our industry would be to have, as you said at the outset, 7, 8, 9, 10 outbreaks, that are occurring across the state that can be verifiably traced to a salon. The same with a movie theater, the same with a gym. All these business owners know that the one of the things that could hurt them the most would be to not follow the protocols and allow an outbreak to be traced back to their facility. So, I mean, be vigilant in your efforts, and I guess just keep the pressure on. I mean, that's all we did. We just tried to keep the pressure on. We just tried to, put forth, the best guidelines and protocols, and we modeled it after protocols and guidelines in other states. So,
I know when the salons first reopened, they were extremely busy. How has business been recently?
So, this is an interesting phenomenon that we're discovering, still going on. And affecting our industry, and that is there's some strong headwinds right now in our business, and I think the primary one continues to be the coronavirus, the COVID-19. And while all the stylists were super busy right after we opened, probably for 6 to 7, maybe 8 weeks, what we have heard and talked to other stylists and salon owners about is that there's still about between 10 and 20% of clients that are staying away from hair salons, regardless of the safety protocols or anything like that. They're just not ready to return to a salon. And so we're starting to see that affect, revenues. Again, they got through that first wave of clients that were, couldn't wait to get in and all of that, and then they got a little second wave of people that, were still comfortable or were comfortable going to salons, and then, you have this period now where they're finding, their business is a little slower. The other headwind that we're facing in the industry, Ronnie, is home, people being at home for work and school. So a lot of our professionals are saying, yikes, my 8-year-old is in school all day from home. I can't leave him home by himself or herself and trust that they'll, do the right things online and all of that. And and go to work and cut hair. And so their hours are shifting. They're working later in the evenings. They're coming in later in the day, maybe when a spouse comes home from their job. But that has the potential to impact our industry collectively through the end of the year and beyond, as schools decide what they're going to do.
Yeah, and how are the salons doing when it comes to employees? Are there some employees that didn't come back? And so many businesses right now are impacted with an employee shortage.
Yes, they are. And I was in the restaurant business in the midst of the pandemic and the shutdown, and sold my last 4 restaurants on June 28th. So, but one of the biggest challenges we were facing and had been facing, frankly, was a shortage of employees for my restaurant business. Now, at Sola, we don't have employees. So we actually, they rent a turnkey studio salon. So it's a salon, but it's small. They rent a turnkey studio salon from us, and they're independent contractors. They set their hours, they set their prices, they come and go as they please. However, my other friends in the industry have imparted on me that there were quite a few people who didn't come back. There are still people, I can't give you percentages, but there are still professionals, especially in the skincare area, so estheticians, eyelash artists, eyebrow artists, folks like that whose business continues to struggle because more and more of their clients are holding off returning for those types of services. So I know I just blended 2 topics, but I'm sorry.
Kevin Lent joining us. He's a franchisee with Sola Salon Studios and was a spokesperson for the Safe Salons of Michigan coalition as the salons in the state attempted to get the governor's office to allow them to reopen earlier on this year, which happened, of course, successfully. So the pandemic continues on, Kevin. The industry, of course, still very much affected by it. What is your forecast if we continue on with this pandemic for the salon industry in the state of Michigan going forward? If this goes on a few more months, if this goes on six more months, if this goes on another year, what is your forecast as of now? What's it looking like?
Yeah, I think that things will hold. I don't think things are going to get any worse for our professionals, our licensed cosmetologists and barbers. I think that those who are choosing to stay away will continue to stay away, and those that have already returned will probably not change their behavior. That could change if there's a big outbreak. But I know there was a big outbreak tied to a bar establishment in Lansing, but it hasn't seemed to have affected the bar trade at the restaurants locally. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the headwinds that are going to be the strongest, frankly, are the schooling issues that I brought up, and are our kids going to be back to in-person learning? If they are, I think that bodes a little better for our industry. I think that provides a little more freedom for the consumer, provides much more flexibility for the professional, and for the employer, for those salon owners who hire employees, whether they pay them commission or an hourly rate. That's going to free up the workforce to be able to come back to work and then be able to generate revenue that in turn pays their rents, that in turn, feeds the banking system. It's just, as one thing affects everything. So I'm cautiously optimistic. The numbers look good in terms of, I think the hospitalizations and deaths per, ratio looks good. And I would be cautiously optimistic that we'll maintain our status quo through the winter.
So many different facets to this entire pandemic impacting so many different businesses. Kevin, while we have you with us, I'm curious, how is the supply chain looking? are some of the salons running into issues with getting the supplies that they need?
Now, early on, yes, because of, short announcement time frame, short timing, right? The system was taxed for gloves and hand sanitizer and things like that. I mean, a lot of business owners I know stocked up so they would have it, a supply and, on hand. And we stacked up, a little bit at a time as much as we could through the shutdown. But those supply chains seem to be back and moving and flowing freely at this point. No need to worry about your hair color, being in stock or anything like that. Your gray coverage stuff, that's all in stock. You should be fine.
Yeah, I know a lot of hairstylists had a lot of corrections that they had to make from all that box dye that people were using. So when it comes to the salons, and I know a lot of them took out some of the small business loans or the PPP loans, how is that going with paying back the government? Where do things stand? And do you think there's going to be any need in the future for additional help from the government as the businesses aren't back to 100%?
Now, let me tackle the latter part of that first. I think, absolutely there's going to be a need for some kind of additional stimulus to business, as we all know, and I'm sure we've all talked and joked about, right? Restaurants can survive in Michigan and other states in our geographic area, with limited seating and outdoor seating. When that outdoor seating goes away and they're only allowed 25, 50%, pick a state, they all have different numbers. Being a former restaurant owner, I've never done a pro forma ever in my life that showed me making money at half the sales volume I projected. That's really concerning about what's going to happen to that industry as we move forward into the winter and they can't see people outside, as efficiently or effectively as they do today. And if they're continue to be handcuffed by occupancy restrictions, then there's going to be a lot more places getting closed down. There's also some need for helping businesses, and I'm going to be selfish, like ours, that are not employee-based businesses, that are businesses nonetheless and provide significant positive impact to the economy. But we're a house full of independent contractors, so I have no employees and therefore not eligible for any of the PPP. That was difficult because conversely our professionals in our buildings are independent contractors that employ no one as well. So they were literally either at the mercy of the unemployment system or trying to get a emergency disaster loan through the SBA, which, a portion of which potentially is forgivable, 10,000 of which. Those were very difficult to get unless you had lending relationships. Even PPP was very difficult without a strong participatory lender in the program. And so it really was not any of the government stimulus in the first round was not good for my business. I know for some salon owners who employ either through hourly or commission, they fared a little better. They were able to get PPP loans because they do have employees. But again, another, a salon unlike ours, but may have, 10 chairs in it and it's all chair rental. They would not have any employees. They would not have been eligible for the PPP. So I think, whatever round of stimulus this comes in, hopefully it's the next one. They need to address these businesses, a lot of businesses in the country that don't fit in the box. They're new paradigms in the industry that, were left behind.
Kevin Lent joining us on the Oakland County Megacast, the franchisee with Solo Salon Studios and the spokesperson for the Safe Salons of Michigan Coalition. Just another couple minutes with you before we have to let you go. Kevin, anything else you'd like to discuss with us today?
No, I actually kind of want to go back to that whole thing about the professionals in the beauty industry in Michigan not having a voice. And it's not just Michigan, I shouldn't say that. We found that to be true, across the country. And I know the group of us in Michigan that kind of put together the Safe Salons for Michigan Coalition, we're really continuing our work, even though all the salons are open again and things seem to be getting, like I said, closer to normal. But we left something undone, and that is to try to figure out how we get a voice in the state of Michigan for this industry that is filled with such wonderful people who are professionally trained. They spend thousands of dollars going to school, trade schools. They spend thousands of dollars getting licensing. They spend years, developing their clientele, and they need a voice. And we're going to continue that work and try to form, the right voice for the industry that can represent its interests in Lansing and ultimately in Washington, D.C.
So if you had a magic wand to make, if you had a magic wand to make that happen, what would that look like?
That would look like a unified and powerful industry group, of at least 10,000 members, which I think would be easy for us to achieve. That has, through Laura and other connections, has the ability to reach the highest offices in Lansing with the opinion and argument that would benefit our industry, regardless of what that topic may be. I know there was some talk about deregulating the industry as we went through this shutdown, and we were able to get with the folks that kind of brought that idea up in the state legislature and say, hey, wait a minute, we understand the reasoning behind this, but this is a backfire. This is not good for Michigan. This is not good for our licensed cosmetologists. It won't be good for the industry, and it won't be good for the consumer. And I think, through that, our ability to, connect with those folks quickly and explain the industry side of the issue, that was paramount in getting that proposal withdrawn.
What do you think will be a long-lasting positive thing that came out of this crisis for the industry?
Oh gosh, this is the easy button right here, and that is practice everything that you were taught in cosmetology school as it relates to cleanliness and sanitation, day in and day out, every time you see a client, before and after. And I think that if that results from this, and I see it in practice every day when I'm in my places, if that's the end result, if that becomes muscle memory or just an unconscious habit, then that's the best thing that could happen to our industry.
Kevin Lent with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for carving out a little bit of time in your busy schedule to update us on all things that are happening here in the salons in the state of Michigan. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you both. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Kevin Lent with us. He has been the Safe Salons of Michigan Coalition, an avid spokesperson for that group and an important voice in that group in getting them reopened safely and sooner than some of the other businesses here in the state of Michigan. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to round out the show talking about medicine and the ER, how things are looking over at Beaumont Hospital during this time. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
Or blue. But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. You can catch us Monday through Friday on CivicCenterTV.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, or on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The Biff. Today, we are also streaming the show live on my Facebook page, on my journalist page, Ronnie Dahl, over on Facebook. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in today. We are going to round out this show by checking in with Dr. David Donaldson. He is the chief over at Beaumont Troy ER Center. Doc, thanks for being with us on the Megacast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Dr. David Donaldson with us. How are you? How's your team over at the Beaumont Troy ER Center doing?
Yeah, we're hanging in there. Luckily, the COVID numbers are down. The patients we're seeing seem to be less sick than initially. So, yeah, we're getting back to some normal business, luckily.
COVID-19 continues on. Flu season also coming up. How are you and your team at the ER Center preparing for that dichotomy of issues?
Sure. So we're ramping up testing best we can, anticipating, when these patients present with COVID or influenza, it's going to be very difficult to tell who's who from, just the initial presentation. So we have to be basically assuming everybody has COVID until we make sure they don't with those scenarios. So we're ramping up testing. We've discussed, worst case scenarios. If it gets really bad, alternative sites. To see some of the more mild patients, to keep them out of the ER and leave that area for the patients that are more sick, if you will. So yeah, we're kind of looking at all scenarios with testing and alternative sites if it gets to that point. But I'm encouraged just reading some data from the Southern Hemisphere with regards to influenza, and they're seeing actually very low volumes, historic low volumes of influenza. So I'm hoping the social distancing and masking will keep those numbers down as well.
Yeah, we are all learning to wash our hands a lot more often during this, so hopefully it does help prevent the spread of the flu as well. I'm curious to know, in the beginning of this, a lot of people that maybe needed to go to the ER, they weren't making that trip because they were afraid of getting COVID-19. Are you still seeing that, or are things pretty much back to normal?
Luckily, we're not seeing the severe illnesses not come in like in the beginning, the heart attacks, the strokes, those sort of patients were not coming in, and unfortunately, they, some of those patients didn't make it. We're not seeing that so much. Those numbers have returned to normal. What we are seeing is a real decrease in the number of pediatric patients and more of the minor care stuff, and I think some of that is more reflective of the high school sports haven't been back until recently. Schools aren't most schools are not live. So the numbers of other things like stomach flu and other respiratory illnesses we're just not seeing. But the major stuff, we're back almost to normal. To give you some perspective, we're running about 80 to 85% of our normal volumes in the emergency center as compared to pre-COVID.
I'm always confused, okay, so you're a parent, your kid falls. When do they make the decision on when to take them to the hospital versus like an urgent care, or just try to monitor it at home?
I mean, that's a personal, decision that I think, obviously, if it's a true emergency, come in, don't ask any questions. But if you're debating it, physicians, private physicians are always on call, so you can run it by them first and potentially get seen in their office. But I want to reinforce that if you have an emergency, we have a separate process if we suspect that you have COVID. And, so if you come in with a non-COVID-like complaint, you won't be anywhere near, patients that we're suspecting COVID. So if you're debating it at all, we're definitely have a safe way to do it. But yeah, to answer your question, if you're debating, should I go, shouldn't I go, your doctor would be somebody to reach out to.
I know in the beginning, the hospitals were limiting people going in with their loved one. Has that changed now, or what are those protocols like?
Sure. So we do allow visitors for everybody. We do limit it depending on the scenario, and we try to keep it to one visitor per patient. Obviously, if there's extenuating circumstances, those rules can flex depending on the situation. But we try to limit it best we can to one visit per adult patient and two for a pediatric patient.
On that note, is there anything that goes into that involves symptom checks and testing and so on for those visitors? Is there a list of people that maybe are listed for the patients in the hospital as potential visitors that then you're reaching out to? How does that process work in terms of bringing those people in to visit their loved ones, but also ensuring that they are safe and others are safe as they come in?
Sure. So, everybody's obviously required to wear a mask. A questionnaire, we have greeters at all the entrances. So questionnaires and checks as a screening process is done at all the entrances. Nothing's 100%, but it's a pretty good system to, if you're not feeling well as a visitor, and not to come in. Then the other thing to consider is if you're a visitor with medical issues yourself, you might want to, obviously think about your own situation before entering the hospital as well.
Dr. David Donaldson with us. He's the chief at Beaumont Troy ER Center. And Doc, while we have you on here, talking about when a person is asymptomatic, what's so hard about this, you don't know. You don't have any symptoms. So as you're making these procedures and plans, what conversation is around trying to address asymptomatic?
Again, that's a very, very good point. And that's one of the big problems with this virus is you can have very minimal symptoms or no symptoms at all and still be contagious. So we have to really just rely on symptoms. If you have no symptoms, there's really not much to go off of other than if you had close contact with people with known COVID. And that's part of the screening process as well, your recent contact information with potential patients.
So as we move into the flu season, is it going to be possible for someone to have the flu and COVID at the same time? And then what would be the policy to treat them?
Sure. No, it's interesting you asked that because in the beginning, when this all started in March, the thoughts were that you could not have both at one time. And the CDC guidelines at that time were actually to test for influenza first. If you didn't have it, then test for COVID. And that's when the testing was very limited. Luckily, we can test for both right now on the same machine. You can, at this point, the thought is, yes, you can get both at the same time, but that has differed from the initial thought several months ago.
I know that so many medical professionals, such as yourself, you're looking to the CDC to help guide you through this pandemic, but every day in the news headlines, there seems to be politics or getting in the way of this. How reliable is the CDC? And for the general public, what do you want them to know?
I do think it does become frustrating as a provider as well with their guidelines, changing often. I do think they're reliable. I think you have to be fluid in this because nobody's ever been through, this particular COVID virus before, or in our lifetime, another pandemic. So we have to rely on somebody and we have to all be on the same page. So I think it is a good mechanism for that, so we can be standardized best we can versus everybody kind of doing their own thing. I do think common sense, has to play a role as well. Mask and social distancing, the facts are it works. I'm not always a fan of it, and I'll be happy for the day that we can go to a sports game or a concert again without a mask. But for right now, I think it's the best thing we could do for the safety of ourselves and the public.
Dr. David Donaldson with us. He is the chief of the Beaumont Troy ER Center, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And on that topic of advice, as families are entering the flu season, with some of their kids in person learning for their schools and others not, and with people getting back into the regular swing of life to some extent over the last couple months and as we go forward, what advice do you and your team have for people and for families going forward in terms of keeping themselves and others safe as we're heading into a flu season on top of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic?
I think it is a balancing act, getting back to somewhat of a normal semblance of life. There's a lot of fallouts that, haven't made the news yet, if you will. And our mental health patients, the census for those type of patients has really gone up during this pandemic. I think just the normalcy of kids getting back to school and social interactions are important. I think we have to do it smart, but I think we also have to try to get back to some normalcy. Just personally speaking, I have a senior in high school, and they're back live to school, and they're doing well with their screening process. I've got two kids in college. Unfortunately, my son's a freshman at Michigan State and was supposed to be in the dorms and is now living at home, and he's not happy about that because you're missing out on these great, potential great times of your life. So I think it's important to do it smart, but I think it's also important to get back to some normalcy.
Yeah, I always wonder, for people such as yourself, when you have that medical knowledge behind you, what is it like when you go out in public? What are your thoughts and what are you seeing?
Sure. I obviously see now in Michigan, everybody masking, or for the most part masking and social distancing. And again, I'll be happy when we're back and don't have to do that, but I think it's the right thing to do right now. I'm supportive of getting kids back to school safely, as safe as we can, but they're, for the most part, a pretty low-risk group. The hospital numbers that we're seeing are dramatically down. I think we really have to follow the hospitalizations and the mortality, the deaths, more so than even the number of cases, because as testing increases and becomes more readily available, of course, the number of cases are going to go up. And certainly for trends, that's important. But the real important part is hospitalizations and deaths.
So since your son goes to Michigan State University and he's staying at home, I think you should get a rebate on your tuition, at least a little bit of a discount. A lot of parents are thinking that right now. In talking about testing, how accurate are the tests?
So it depends what test you're talking about. There's several different tests. The one that we use at Beaumont is called a PCR test, and it's a swab that goes deep into your nose. It's an intranasal swab. And those are very, very sensitive and reliable. Unfortunately, there's a federal deficiency, or the amount of the reagent, so that the fluid or the reagent that you need to run that test is being subsidized to the various hospital systems. So they're not unlimited, and that's the problem. It's very limited with that sensitive test. The other tests, like that you can get back and go to like an urgent care and get back in 15 minutes, those are called antigen tests. And they are not quite as reliable and sensitive, especially when you don't have symptoms. So when you hear these, and I'm in favor of it, like these sports teams and whatnot testing every day, it's good to get a sense for it, but it's in the absence of symptoms in particular, the yield goes down with those tests.
Dr. David Donaldson with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the chief of the Beaumont Troy ER Center. So at this time then, Dr. Donaldson, with that in mind, do you believe that people should be getting regularly tested for COVID-19 still, or is it still something where you should get tested if you're feeling a little bit under the weather, or if you're going to be going in for any sort of a medical checkup or procedure or whatnot? When should people be getting tested, whether it is the more accurate test or one of the more rapid response and less accurate tests?
So I'll just speak for Beaumont. The elective surgery cases that we have here, there is a process that patients get tested 2 to 3 days prior to the procedure. So those patients all get tested, because if it's elective, it can obviously be postponed. If you're positive, luckily, those patients that are getting the pre-screening testing, the numbers are really extremely low, like way less than 1% that are coming back positive. But again, those are patients without symptoms. I think if you're going to be not able to use social distancing and masks like football teams and sports teams, then it's probably more important to get tested, just so your teammates and other people are not put in harm's way. But if you have mild symptoms and you're going to self-quarantine, or you were exposed to somebody and you continue to have no symptoms, I mean, as long as you're going to quarantine yourself, it really doesn't matter what that test shows. To be honest, it's if you're gonna be around people and not able to distance, then it's probably more important than if you can just stay home and ride out the symptoms.
I know you're an ER doc, but going into fall time, fall allergies, so many people are getting freaked out because they don't know if they have allergies or if they could possibly have COVID. And now we're going to be throwing the flu into this mix. What do you suggest for just the general public to try to navigate this new world?
Sure. No, I hear what you're saying. Every time I sneeze, I think, oh my goodness, there it is. But you just have to use discretion. I mean, if you're sick enough to need medical attention, 100% come to the ER. If your symptoms are very mild and you can quarantine yourself, I think you have to treat during a pandemic everything as COVID initially, because you just don't know. And I'm not saying every time you sneeze or have a sniffle, but if you have symptoms that are not the norm for your allergies, and back in the day last year, if we had a cold and a low-grade fever, we'd tough it out and come to work, and that's just not going to be able to happen this year. So we have actually put in contingency plans to cover each other when we get into those scenarios here at the hospital.
So anything else you want to touch on before we let you go? Are you seeing an uptick in any type of case over something else?
No, the numbers are good. They're manageable. So I think what we're doing is working. I mean, it's definitely, we're not overwhelmed at all in the hospital or the ICUs right now, at least locally. So I would just say keep doing what we're doing and try to integrate back into some normalcy best we can, and hopefully we have a vaccine sooner than later.
Yeah, because now that things seem to be back to normal at the hospitals, do you have a better plan if we have a second outbreak?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we learned a ton. Again, this was all of our first time through anything like this, so the learning curve was pretty steep, back in March and April and into May. But lots of lessons learned in terms of not only the management of COVID, but how to isolate those patients, how to protect ourselves. And like I said initially during the interview, is that we now have contingency plans if we do get overwhelmed on different spaces in the hospital that we can use if it ever got to that point.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get to that point. We get a vaccine soon and we can all get back to living life as normal and going to the Lions game and booing them in person.
I agree. I want to go back to a Spartan game.
Go green. Well, Dr. David Donaldson with us. Thank you so much for being with us on the Megacast. We definitely appreciate your time.
Sure, anytime. Thank you.
He is the chief at Beaumont Troy ER Center. That's good to hear, Tyler, that the hospitals are getting back to where they were pre-COVID-19 and the outbreak that we saw back in March and April. And one of the big things, letting the public know, if you do come across, you have an injury, so many people were avoiding going to the hospital, you don't have to do that any longer.
Yeah, and that's really encouraging news from the doctors as of late, is that they're encouraging you to go back to your primary care doctor, to go back to whatever specialist you may need to see for certain kinds of injuries or ailments and whatnot, and that there are precautions in place for you to be checked for COVID-19 and make sure that you're not infected yourself, or that you're not potentially infecting other people in those medical facilities, and that you don't have to be worried if you have an emergency come up, if you have a situation come up where you need to get something checked, that you can go ahead and get that checked and not have other medical worries come into play. That's, of course, really good news. And the fact that that has been the status quo for multiple months at this point is also good news as we continue forward through this pandemic.
Yeah, I always like having the medical doctors on the show because we can get information directly from them, because it can be so confusing going through the day because we get information from so many different angles. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast and then wrap up the show when we come back.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
It's the last day of summer here.
Oh, yeah.
What a beautiful summer that we have had. We've been lucky.
It's been great.
We've been lucky, though, Tyler. So quickly, just a little bit of a reminder, let everyone know that each and every day before we come in here to the studios, we do update the headlines for you. You can always find those on CivicCenterTV.com. Big news coming out today. The flight attendants are going to rally for COVID-19 relief. They are fighting to try to get some protections. A lot of them are afraid that they could possibly lose their jobs if they do not get more assistance from the government. Also on CivicCenterTV.com, we have Central Michigan University, where they've had so many outbreaks of COVID-19. They are going to start doing basically like a big batch testing to try to track the virus in a different way. So for people who are maybe asymptomatic, they don't know if they have it, this is one way that they're going to be testing not only the students, but the staff members and professors as well. And you can get all of that information on Civic Center TV as well. Plus, go up to the top of the page, CDC resources, you can find it there. Get the information directly from the agency itself, as well as the state of Michigan. I check this page out each and every day, especially the coronavirus page, Tyler, because it changes so often and it can get confusing out there as we try to navigate this pandemic. 6 months into it, we are heading into fall now. So the concern, obviously, going into the flu season, that it could be impacted to a higher degree, although talking to some of the doctors, one of the good things about wearing the mask, being socially distanced, and using hand sanitizer, case numbers of the flu could be down this year.
Yeah, and hopefully that is the result of all this, is that people are more aware of what they need to do when they do have an illness, particularly a respiratory illness, in order to keep themselves and other people, more importantly, other people safe. So wearing a mask, keeping distance, staying home if you need to stay home, and all of that we've been doing throughout this pandemic. Hopefully that will make for a flu season that's less severe than it could potentially be if those precautions continue to not be followed.
So I'm sorry, I was on the state of Michigan's page as they were talking about guidance for contact sports. So now that high school football is back, some parents are getting a little bit concerned that playing sports with a mask on could also be not safe for their kids. So they're starting to get a little bit of pushback for some of the parents saying, hey, we want to allow our kids to play sports, but we don't think they should be able to play it in a mask, because now the governor is also looking at possibly allowing Big Ten the football players there to not wear masks.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, because obviously it's going to be tougher to play a sport that's that heavily involved and that physical with a mask on, or other sports that are also equally or similarly physical to play with a mask on, but at the same time you're trying to play these sports in a way that's going to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and people banging into each other, knocking sweat and knocking spit around. It's not a great way to prevent the spread of a respiratory virus.
So many things to to continue to navigate. That's just about going to wrap it up for us here on the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you to Dustin McClellan from the Pontiac Community Foundation, Chelsea Hensbergen, she's the artist, great artwork. Check out her artwork as well. Dayja Foster, Pink Daisy Hair Care, as well as Kevin Lint and Dr. David Donaldson. We thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back Tuesday. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy.